share with you my favorite technique for preparing for an interview that is a really consequential interview. Probably not the screening interview, although if you're nervous, it works for that too. You're going to start with the job description, but more than the job description. I like AI for this, where you're going to think about the job description and identify to you what you think the top 5 most important skills are for the job. And I think it's really wise for you to devote some time to thinking about the skills, even the skills that are not specifically mentioned in the job description, but that are implied by the job description. And then second, I think it's useful to have a similar list, 5 to 7, of the most important attributes, personality traits, work ethic, attitude, adaptability, problem solving, ability to learn fast, flexibility, sort of compassion, ability to connect with people, right? Those are more traits and temperament attributes, but they're nonetheless will be very important for success in the role. So once you have identified and thought through that list and it represents what you think is really most important, your next step is to look at the list and rate yourself honestly from 1 to 10 on, your, adeptness in each of those things. I don't care what your ratings are. If you have all 10s, I don't believe you. If you have all 1s, I don't believe you. I want you to give yourself an honest look. And I know people listening to this, there will be some people who will sort of, give themselves high scores and some people who will give themselves low scores. What matters is not how your score compares to what someone else would put about them, but your reflection. And here is the most important part. Whatever score you give yourself, whether it's a 3 or an 8, I want you to then ask yourself this question. If you gave yourself a 3, why not a 4? And why not a 2? And this question, you need to answer those questions and answer them out loud, probably. You might use an AI to transcribe you and sort of pull out some nuggets. But when you go from this abstract rating of like, I'm pretty good at it, but I could be better, to know exactly why did you give yourself that? Why not a 4 and why not a 2? Well, that requires you to get very precise and specific. I used to be a 2. I used to be a 1. But I've been working on skill development and I've noticed myself getting better. You are going to start to think of real life, tangible evidence for the rating that you gave yourself. And that evidence will include your aspirations, your sense of what the field is and where you aren't yet, but you could be, but also where you have gotten and the progress that you have made. You will have real examples, right? I have a colleague who who would say is like a natural 9, and I'm not there yet, but I've been learning from her. I've been borrowing some of her techniques. I used to be a 5 or a 6, but I think I'm moving into 7 range. I know that because at the last presentation I did, I paused even though it was uncomfortable because I'd watched her doing that. And I saw the reaction of the room and I thought, wow, I have a lot more seniority now, right? So you're going to start that question, why not a 2, why not a 4, or why not an 8, why not a 6, brings out evidence for the stories that you can use to show an interviewer how you are thinking about the skill set. It gives you credibility when you describe something. You can say, let me give you an example, and you can pull from both your stories of progress and learning and your stories of aspiration and skill development. And it lets you confidently walk into an interview, not trying to fool them, but occupying the land that you are really on, right? Occupying the terrain. And you can say something like, I know you have a lot of good options. I can imagine these are really important. There are probably candidates who are stronger than me in these ways, but nobody is going to bring you this combination of this and this and this. And I'm confident that I'm better than probably 90% of your candidates in these ways. And if that's important to you, here's what I'm going to bring to the table. And on these pieces that, I know other people are stronger, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I see myself progressing in this role. If you go through this inquiry, it gives you the the credibility and the specific examples to be confident and clear about your candidacy without having to perform or pretend or project. Good luck.